What if the most dangerous threat to your career right now isn't some, you know, sentient sci-fi robot with glowing red eyes?
Right, like from the movies.
Yeah, exactly. What if it's not a Terminator, but a simple, like, completely invisible
Oh,
checklist?
that is such a good way to frame it.
Because, I mean, you are likely hearing this massive, just overwhelming wall of noise right now about artificial intelligence taking over the
Oh,
world.
it's everywhere. You can't escape it.
You really can't. But today, we are completely cutting through all that hype. We're putting aside the distant utopian promises and, honestly, the doomsday scenarios, too, to look at the immediate ground level reality.
Which is so important because that noise, it just creates paralysis.
Yeah,
When you are constantly looking 10 or 20 years down the road at, artificial general intelligence, you miss the fundamental economic and structural shifts that are happening right under your feet today.
exactly. And that is the mission for this deep dive. We are pulling from a really fascinating dialogue titled, Which Jobs Will AI Replace First? And Are You at Risk? And it's by Beebz and it's WAE.
Oh, yeah, that's a fantastic source material to dig into.
It really is. So we're going to decode exactly what makes a job vulnerable to
Yeah.
AI this year, not next decade.
Right.
We're going to uncover which industries are already transforming. And, most importantly, we're going to figure out how you can adapt instead of just panicking.
Yeah, and to do that, we have to establish the absolute baseline reality of the current landscape.
Setting the stage.
Exactly. The premise here in the source is incredibly blunt. AI is not some storm forming on the horizon.
Yeah.
It is the weather we are currently standing in.
Wow.
It's already fully integrated into the enterprise software, the supply chains, the communication networks that literally power the global economy right now.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if we want to figure out who is actually at risk in this new weather system, we first have to understand how this technology actually, thinks and operates.
Right.
We have to look at the core vulnerability metric. And the craziest part is it's not about blue collar versus white collar anymore.
Not at all. I mean,
Yeah.
historically, we just assume manual labor would be automated first, right?
Yeah, the factories, the assembly lines.
Exactly. And that cognitive labor, the desk jobs, were totally safe. But large language models and machine learning, they operate on an entirely different axis.
A completely different set of rules.
Yeah. The easiest jobs to replace are not determined by the amount of physical sweat or, the level of formal education required. They're determined entirely by the presence of predictable tasks and repeatable systems.
So it really comes down to what the text refers to as the checklist rule.
Yes, the checklist rule.
The concept is super simple, but honestly kind of ruthless. If a job can be written as a checklist, it can probably be automated.
Unpack that a bit.
Okay, so think of it like baking from a highly specific step-by-step recipe, right? Versus inventing a completely new culinary dish from scratch.
Oh, I like that.
AI is the ultimate recipe follower. It just does the steps. But here's what I am wondering, and I kind of want to push back on this with you.
Sure, go for it.
If a job is mostly just a rigid checklist, is AI actually, like, stealing a job? Or is it just doing the boring, robotic parts of the job that humans honestly shouldn't have been doing in the first place?
Oh, what's fascinating here is the underlying cognitive economics of that exact question.
Cognitive economics.
Yeah, so human brains are biologically not designed for extreme, rigid repetition.
Oh, for sure. We get so bored.
Exactly. When we do the exact same sequence of tasks 1,000 times, we get fatigued, our attention drifts, we make mistakes, we introduce errors.
Right.
We are incredibly expensive, inefficient processors for closed-loop systems. But a machine learning model, however, thrives precisely in that environment.
Because it operates entirely on probability and pattern recognition.
Precisely. If action A always leads to result B, there is no ambiguity to process. You don't need human intuition to migrate structured data from an invoice into a spreadsheet.
No, you really don't.
Right. When a role simply requires acting as a biological router.
A biological router, I love that phrase.
It's true, though. Taking a clear input, applying a static rule, and producing a clear output, that labor is incredibly vulnerable. We aren't necessarily losing jobs so much as we're experiencing this massive reweighting of human labor.
Right, so silicon is simply stepping in to do the silicon's work.
Exactly, which forces us to figure out what the actual human value was in that transaction to begin with.
Which logically leads us straight to the front lines of this shift. I mean, if silicon is fundamentally better at processing these closed loops, we have to look at where those loops are most prevalent in our current economy.
And the immediate casualties are eye-opening.
They really are.
Customer service is arguably the most massive immediate example. I mean, chatbots and voice agents are actively handling millions of conversations right now, entirely unassisted.
It's crazy.
And if we look at the mechanics of why, it perfectly aligns with the checklist rule.
Right, because if you map out the semantic intent of millions of customer calls, the vast majority fall into just a handful of highly predictable buckets. It's like,
right.
where's my order? How do I reset my password, process my return?
Yes.
You don't need a human to navigate the emotional nuance of a lost password.
No, you definitely don't.
It is a clear input matched to a clear database output.
And that brings the marginal cost of that interaction down to practically zero.
Wow.
And the same exact mechanism is why data entry is basically already gone.
Already got.
Pretty much. Data entry is the purest distillation of the checklist. You are just taking structured information from one format and mapping it to another format.
Right.
Large language models can now instantly parse the structure of any document, extract the required fields, and populate a database without a single human keystroke.
So it's literally just API calls replacing those biological routers we talked about.
Exactly.
And we are seeing the same pattern matching logic absolutely devour basic translation services too.
Really?
And AI can map the latent space between two languages with terrifying accuracy now.
It really is terrifying how good it's gotten.
But where the conversation takes a turn, and I think where a lot of people are getting caught off guard, is in the creative fields.
Yes, this is the big one.
We are talking about content writing and graphic design. Now, the crucial keyword here from the source is basic. We were talking about basic articles, standard social media captions, generic logo templates.
And that distinction, between basic and complex, that is where the economic reality hits hardest.
How so?
Well, in the digital economy, there was this massive boom in business models that relied entirely on speed and volume over deep, original nuance.
Oh, right. The content mills.
Exactly. If an agency needed a totally functional, search engine optimized 5-paragraph article about the benefits of a new lawn fertilizer.
They didn't need Ernest Hemingway for that.
They did not need Hemingway. They just needed someone who could quickly synthesize known information into a recognizable format.
It's like AI serves as this ultimate baseline generator. If you need a boilerplate template, the AI has already trained on the mathematical patterns of 10 million other long care articles.
Right.
It knows the recipe for a standard blog post better than any human alive.
Exactly. When the requirement of the job is simply to combine known, successful elements into a predictable structure, human labor simply cannot compete.
Not with the speed and scale of a model operating on pure pattern recognition.
Yeah, so the economic value of generating that sort of good enough high-volume content is collapsing.
Man, but here's where it gets really interesting, though, because it's very easy to look at basic SEO writing or data entry and dismiss them as, glorified checklists.
Right, low-hanging fruit.
But what happens when we apply that exact same pattern matching logic to things we previously thought were purely magically human?
This is the shift.
The real plot twist here is that AI is moving into the domains of music production, video editing, voice acting, and even high-level software coding.
And these are fields that most professionals would fiercely defend as highly creative or deeply technical arts, completely immune to automation.
Totally.
But the reality is that these roles aren't disappearing. They're fundamentally changing at the architectural level.
Right. I mean, writing an elegant piece of software or editing an emotional documentary, it feels like a purely human art form.
It does.
But the crucial realization here is that these jobs are being fractured. They're being broken into their technical components and their creative vision.
Yes.
Think of it like a highly complex paint by numbers.
Okay.
AI might be able to fill in all the highly technical colors of a video edit. Like, it can automatically match the jump cuts to the exact downbeat of an audio track.
Which is wild.
It is. Or it can instantly color grade a washed out scene to match the lighting of a specific cinematic film. Or in programming, it can write the boilerplate syntax and all the standard logic gates. It essentially applies the paint flawlessly. But the human still has to design the big picture.
That's such a good analogy because underneath what we call art or magic, there is almost always an underlying mathematical structure.
Wait, really? Even in art?
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. A hit pop song has a highly predictable structural formula to its rhythm, its chord progressions, and its frequency mixing.
Oh, true, like the 4-chord pop song.
Exactly. A piece of software is literally bound by strict, unyielding laws of logic and syntax. Even a professional voice actor's captivating performance involves measurable pattern changes in pitch, cadence, and breath control.
Oh.
AI is simply learning the underlying physics of these creative disciplines.
I'm not gonna lie, it is slightly unsettling to think about human creativity being broken down into a probabilistic math equation.
I completely understand that reaction. It feels reductive, right?
Sure.
But if we separate the mechanics of execution from the intent of the creator, it makes total sense. And this changes the daily workflow of the modern professional.
How so?
Well, a senior programmer today doesn't sit down and manually type out hundreds of lines of standard repetitive code anymore. Right. They architect the system, they prompt the AI to generate the foundational code, and then they refine and secure it.
Ah, I see.
A video editor isn't spending 6 hours manually slicing audio waveforms. The AI handles the friction of the cut, and the human editor focuses entirely on the emotional pacing of the narrative.
That's a huge shift.
It is. The human transitions from being the manual laborer of the craft to becoming the overarching director of the process.
Okay, so what does this all mean? If AI is devouring the predictable robotic tasks like data entry,
Yeah.
and it's also rapidly mastering the technical execution of highly creative fields like music and coding, we really have to look around and ask, what is actually left? Where does the checklist definitively end?
This is where we find a very solid, reassuring framework for the future of human labor.
Okay, good. We need some reassurance.
There are specific domains where the probabilistic math of an AI simply breaks down, and it rests on 3 distinct pillars, which are true human connection, physical presence, and complex, high-stakes decision-making in real time. The ultimate defense against AI automation is any environment where trust matters fundamentally more than speed.
Okay, I really want to challenge this, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. Is trust really this impenetrable human fortress? Because, I mean, if an AI is objectively right 99.9% of the time, and a human is only right 95% of the time, won't we eventually just mathematically learn to trust the AI more?
That's a fair point.
Or is trust fundamentally a biological requirement that no amount of accuracy can ever satisfy?
This raises an important question and gets to the absolute core of human psychology and economics. Pure accuracy is not the same thing as trust.
Interesting.
True trust requires mutual vulnerability. It requires skin in the game.
Skin in the game, okay.
Let's look at the example of hands-on healthcare. If an AI can instantly process 10 million medical records and instantly suggest a highly accurate oncology diagnosis.
The speed and accuracy are phenomenal.
Exactly. But we still demand a human doctor in the room. Why?
Because it's scary.
Because when a patient receives a terrifying, life-altering diagnosis, they are not just looking for a data output.
Right.
They are looking into the eyes of a fellow human being who intimately understands the terrifying weight of mortality.
They need someone who understands what it means to be afraid.
Exactly. The human doctor is physically standing in the room to navigate the emotional devastation and map out a path forward. An AI cannot experience empathy.
It can only simulate it.
Right, it simulates the linguistic patterns of empathy.
Yeah.
And in moments of high vulnerability, humans possess a deeply evolved biological radar for the authentic presence of another human being.
We can spot a fake.
We really can. And we demand accountability. If a machine makes a mistake, the machine doesn't lose sleep, it doesn't face moral devastation, and it doesn't go to jail.
Wow, that makes incredible sense. You cannot mathematically optimize human grief.
Yeah.
And that concept of skin in the game perfectly applies to the corporate leadership examples we see in the text, too. A true leader isn't just an algorithm optimizing a spreadsheet for maximum quarterly profit. A leader has to inspire a burnt-out team, right?
Right.
They have to navigate complex interpersonal conflicts, read the subtle tension in a boardroom during a crisis, and fundamentally take personal responsibility for the outcome. There is no predictive checklist for navigating the chaotic, irrational reality of human emotion during a crisis.
Precisely. You cannot automate the physical presence of a nurse adjusting a patient's position.
No.
You cannot automate the genuine, intuitive connection required to lead a fractured team through a painful merger. When the environment is volatile, highly nuanced, deeply human, and carries asymmetric risk, the checklist shatters.
That is the permanent sanctuary for human labor.
It really is.
Okay, so knowing this entire landscape, knowing exactly how the checklist rule exposes closed-loop tasks, understanding how the creative space is fracturing into execution versus direction, and seeing how the barrier of human trust acts as our ultimate defense. This brings us to the most critical takeaway. How do you, the person listening right now, actually survive and thrive in this shifting economy?
Well, the first step is correctly identifying the threat.
Okay.
The real risk to your career is not that an AI model is going to walk into your office and replace you.
It's not.
No. The real risk is your own failure to adapt to the shift. Ignoring a technological paradigm shift does not stop the shift from happening.
It's happening anyway.
The market is reweighting the value of your skills whether you choose to participate or not.
But the incredibly actionable, I guess, relieving part of this is that you do not need to suddenly drop everything, go back to university, and become a machine learning engineer to survive.
Definitely not.
You don't need to understand the vector calculus behind a neural network. You just need to understand the tool well enough to wield it. The people who are winning right now are the ones integrating AI into their existing workflows. They are using it to strip away their own closed-loop checklists so they can focus on the high-value, high-trust work.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the exact same dynamic humanity has navigated during every major technological revolution.
Like what?
Think about the invention of the electronic spreadsheet.
Oh, okay.
When spreadsheet software was introduced, people genuinely panicked that the entire accounting profession was going to be wiped out overnight.
Because it did the math for them.
Exactly. But it didn't destroy accounting. It simply eliminated the crushing manual arithmetic, the closed loop.
Right.
And because they no longer had to spend hours doing basic math, accountants evolved into strategic financial advisors. Technology has consistently, relentlessly rewarded those who adopt it as a lever, rather than fighting it as a rival.
It's essentially like having a mechanical exoskeleton for your brain.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, if you strap into an industrial exoskeleton, you are still the one walking.
Yeah.
You are still deciding the ultimate destination.
Right.
You are still providing the human intent, the moral compass, and the creative direction. But suddenly, you can lift 10 times as much weight.
Exactly.
You can run twice as fast without getting mentally exhausted. The AI is the exoskeleton, and your unique domain expertise, whether you are a marketing strategist, a senior developer, or an educator, is the human pilot inside driving it.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize the mechanics of this shift. And it perfectly mirrors the necessary psychological shift, too.
Which is,
You have to move away from the defensive, fear-based posture of I'm going to be replaced and step into the aggressive, opportunistic reality of I'm being upgraded.
but the key caveat is if you choose to be.
Right.
You are being upgraded if you choose to put the exoskeleton on. Because the reality of this specific technological revolution is that the distribution of power is incredibly flat. Everyone has access to the exact same tools.
That is the great equalizer of this era. The frontier AI models that can instantly debug your code, analyze massive data sets, or brainstorm strategic marketing concepts. They are largely accessible to anyone with an internet connection and a basic subscription.
It's wild to think about.
It is. The career advantage no longer goes to the person who can memorize the most static facts or the person who can grind through rote tasks the fastest.
No.
The ultimate advantage in this economy goes to the person who is the most highly adaptable, the most obsessively curious, and the most willing to dismantle their own daily routines to integrate these new capabilities.
So to bring this all together, we have mapped out quite a journey in this deep dive today.
We really have.
We started by looking into the absolute mechanics of the checklist rule, understanding that if your daily work is highly predictable, built on clear inputs and probabilistic outputs, it is heavily exposed to automation right now.
Right.
We unpacked the surprising ways AI is fundamentally altering the workflows of creative fields, shifting humans from manual creators to architectural directors.
The paint-by-numbers shift.
Exactly. We explored the permanent sanctuary of human labor in roles that require physical presence, emotional empathy, and the biological necessity of human trust.
Skin in the game.
And finally, we arrived at the ultimate choice in front of you. You can let the anxiety of replacement paralyze you, or you can actively choose to step into the upgrade.
And we really want to speak directly to you as you process all of this. You are standing at the exact same starting line as everyone else in this historical shift.
Yeah.
You have access to the exact same world-changing cognitive tools as the largest corporations on Earth. The choice of how to integrate them and how to use them to radically amplify your own unique human skills starts right now. The trajectory of your career in the AI era is entirely in your own hands.
Which brings us right back to where we started. All that overwhelming noise, all those screaming sci-fi headlines about the doom of the future, they completely miss the most exciting, empowering part of what is happening on the ground today.
They really do.
Because if AI is essentially just a powerful tool that upgrades our current capabilities, an exoskeleton for human cognition,
Yeah.
what if the greatest, most fulfilling, highest impact job you will ever hold doesn't even exist yet?
Wow.
And what if the very AI you might be afraid of right now is actually the exact tool you will use to invent it?
It fundamentally changes how you look at the landscape of your own potential.
It changes absolutely everything. Thank you so much for cutting through the noise and taking this deep dive with us today. Keep learning, keep adapting, and we'll catch you next time.